Hello GOTA members, I'm here today to talk to you about the FMLA. We're going to go over the history, the basics, and then cover some common scenarios. The Family and Medical Leave Act, also known as the FMLA, passed in 1993 under the Clinton administration. It had actually been proposed several times in the 80s, but hadn't passed Congress and was vetoed repeatedly. Today, the FMLA is administered by the Department of Labor under the Wage and Hour Division. Now, according to the National Partnership for Women and Families, since 1993, the Act has been cited in over 200 million cases of workers' rights. The FMLA is not just for maternity leave. The Family and Medical Leave Act allows certain employees to take up to 12 weeks off in a 12-month period. Now, this time away from work is unpaid, but your job is protected. First, let's review who's covered. Employees working for organizations consisting of at least 50 employees in 20 or more work weeks of the preceding calendar year are covered. All public agencies, local, state, or federal, regardless of the number of employees, are covered under the FMLA. And all public or private elementary or secondary school employees, regardless of the number of employees, are also covered. So who's eligible? Remember that only eligible employees can utilize the FMLA if they're part of an organization covered by the FMLA. You must have worked for your employer for 12 months, during which time you must have worked 1,250 hours of service, and it needs to have occurred in the 12-month period. You must work at a location where the employer has at least 50 employees within a 75-mile radius. It's important to note that the 12 months of employment do not have to be consecutive to qualify for FMLA. Any time previously worked for that same employer, including seasonal work, could meet the 12-month requirement, so long as any break in employment was less than 7 years. If you think that your breaks of employment or your situation might have been covered by FMLA, or you have kind of a unique situation, I encourage you to check out the FMLA special rules for details, and you can find that in the resource that will be included in this video. So what exactly does the leave entail? The Family Medical Leave Act allows eligible employees from covered organizations to take up to 12 work weeks leave in a 12-month period. This leave can be taken all at once, divided into weeks, or applied to an adjusted work week. Employees can take leave for any of the following reasons: the birth of a child, placement of a son or daughter for adoption or foster care, for serious health conditions preventing the employee from completing essential functions of his or her job, which can include health services to address the employee's needs, to care for a spouse, son, daughter, or parent who has a serious health condition. It's important to note that if you're a veteran needing FMLA, a different kind of status applies to you. Covered employees needing FMLA who care for a covered service member or are a veteran with a serious injury or illness are eligible for 26 work weeks of leave during a single 12-month period. I'm going to encourage everyone who thinks that this situation applies to them to check out the fact sheet 28M(B) of the FMLA. Things to remember. You are your own best advocate. Do not rely on your manager or solely on your employer's Human Resources Department to explain your rights to you. Remember that the Human Resources Department is a conduit for employees to access company benefits and to ensure that that company is compliant with current labor laws. The Human Resources Department is not legally required to educate you regarding your rights under the FMLA. They are obligated to ensure that a company is compliant under current labor laws. Remember that the Human Resources Department will not guarantee that you are implementing your rights under the Family Medical Leave Act to their fullest extent. Typically, HR departments are just there to ensure that a company is compliant with current laws. What you don't know could hurt you. The FMLA protects your job up to 12 or 26 weeks depending on the situation, but there are several things that simply reading the details of the FMLA won't tell you. Here are several topics that take employees by surprise. First, you have to supply documentation as to your eligibility for the FMLA. If you require FMLA for your health needs, birth, or taking care of others, you'll need to supply some form of documentation indicating this. Oftentimes, this is a note from the medical doctor or some other entity. Despite your need to supply this information, you do not need to supply details to your direct manager or team regarding why you're taking FMLA. For example, if you need FMLA due to a mental health condition, you can simply supply the documentation to HR while not disclosing your specific diagnosis or medical condition. Number 2, utilizing the FMLA for a medical situation can protect that employee from discrimination. It can also protect their job. For example, say you're taking off consistently to manage your medical condition or that of a loved one, but you're not providing adequate notice. Instead, you're just simply calling into work and burning through your PTO. Your job, if you had implemented the FMLA, could be protected. Formally going through the FMLA process can protect employees from termination by their employer if utilized properly. Number 3, it is common practice that once someone returns from FMLA, the total amount of benefits they would have typically paid is automatically withdrawn from their paychecks upon their return to work. Therefore, the longer the employee takes off for the FMLA, the more abbreviated their paychecks can be compared to their normal pay. So for example, if you take off for 12 weeks and during that time you are not getting paid and therefore you are not paying into your benefits package from work, the next 12 weeks that you return to work after FMLA are all going to have the benefits amount that you would have been paying automatically from your paycheck withdrawn. So you're actually paying double benefits upon your return to make up for the lost time. Number 4, you could have actually had more time. Although 12 weeks are currently covered by the FMLA, many companies have moved to allowing employees to dictate the total amount of time they'd like to take off work. If you request additional time, ensure that your company provides in writing what you've been approved to take off. In this document, have your company outline how benefits will be handled upon your return and if you are expected to return to the same job or team. And lastly, you are entitled to a job after 12 weeks with the FMLA, but you are not entitled to the exact same position. Many people are surprised to find that their role in the company has changed upon their return to work. For OTs, this could mean having your department change, your team shift, or your shift being altered. If you have questions regarding your rights under the FMLA, please refer to the Wage and Hour Division of the U.S. Department of Labor via 866-4-US-WAGE or 866-487-9243. You can also refer to the documents attached to this video for more information. I encourage you to check out the resources listed in that packet, including fact sheet number 28, the annual report from the National Partnership for Women and Families, and the newest U.S. World and News report titled 6 Things Employees Should Know About the Family and Medical Leave Act. Next, let's move into some scenarios. Let's say a full-time GOTA is at her company for 10 months and is requesting FMLA coverage. Is she eligible to have her job protected by the FMLA? No, only employees who are full-time for 12 months or who have worked a cumulative 1,250 hours are eligible. Next, a pregnant OT delivers a premature baby. She's requesting to take off 6 weeks initially to heal, come back to work for 3 months, and then take the rest of her 6 weeks off. Can she do this under the FMLA? Yes, the FMLA allows employees to take their 12 weeks of unpaid leave all at once or divided. An OT is requesting FMLA to manage their depression. Their company is requiring the employee to utilize all of their PTO prior to utilizing the FMLA. Is this legal? Yes. The FMLA does not stipulate how companies enact the 12 weeks. It is up to the company's discretion what occurs prior to the FMLA being enacted. If the company policy states that an employee must utilize all of their PTO prior to using the FMLA, that is legal. The employee is still entitled to the 12 weeks of unpaid leave following the spent PTO, which could result in the employee having greater than 12 weeks off of work. A COTA has a wife return from active duty with PTSD. The wife requires 24/7 supervision for safety. He requests to have 26 weeks of FMLA to help his wife. Is this legal? Yes, 26 weeks of FMLA should be covered for this OT. Active service members and veterans are eligible to take up to 26 weeks of FMLA. Those caring for this population can also request up to 26 weeks of FMLA. In our final scenario, an OT has a newborn. His wife is back from her FMLA, but their new baby continues to have medical needs that require additional medical visits. Can he apply for FMLA to manage his newborn's needs? Yes, this OT could apply for intermittent FMLA to manage his child's needs. It does not need to be the wife, and she may not be eligible for an additional 12 weeks off during the 12-month period. So it would behoove the husband to apply for FMLA and utilize it in an intermittent format by either taking full days off of work or by working under an abbreviated work week schedule. That concludes the basics of FMLA video from the GOTA. Remember that all opinions stated in this video are solely that of myself. They don't reflect the companies that I work for nor the GOTA. I'm also not a specialist in labor laws, nor am I part of an HR department with any of the companies I work. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask the GOTA or ask me personally, please comment below. Thanks for tuning in.